I became aware of Tokarov when Antoine Fuqua was attached. He brought it to me, and I read the script, and I immediately responded to it because I thought it was relevant. And by relevant, I mean that it was pertaining to something that is an issue, a sensitive issue in contemporary society that's even more on people's minds on both sides of the argument, which is about guns and gun violence. And I thought that this was an opportunity to, a script that would allow me to express myself and hopefully invite some discussion and some conversation about that issue. I don't know why Antoine ultimately wound up not making the movie, but it put me on a path because the script stayed in my mind to find a filmmaker that would make the movie, and then Paco Cabezas became involved. Mike Nylon, my manager, was working closely with Hannibal to find someone who could bring this to life. Neon Flesh came up, and I saw it, and I was immediately impressed with Paco's originality, his uniqueness, his bravery to handle such dark material, and also his work with the actors. First of all, he could really make the camera move in a way that I hadn't seen before, but more importantly for me, he was able to access powerful performances from Macarena, the young lady in the movie, his star, the main actor in the film, were all very honest in their portrayals, and I liked his guts. You know, having a character in the movie that was also a transvestite to me was a brave choice. And it just seemed to me that Paco had a signature. He had a style that I immediately would be able to relate to him. He's an artist, and that's what appealed to me about Paco. And I knew he wouldn't be afraid to tackle the more tragic and intense aspects of this drama. Paul McGuire, a little bit of background, grew up in a hard life, wrong side of the tracks, clearly. He goes through a transformation, decides to become legitimate and not a criminal, has an issue with his first wife where she, tragically dies of cancer, and as a result of that, because he's very invested in being a good parent to his daughter, Caitlin, gives up a life of crime. And when this tragedy occurs where his daughter is kidnapped and shot, fatally shot, he, in a desperate need for justice, succumbs to the darker angels of his nature and goes back to crime. He was always, from a very young age, he was creating characters, and he's marvelous with accents. And one of the accents that he can do, and I say one of them because he can do many of them. He does Norwegian, he does Italian, Greek, but he was also very adept at doing a Russian accent. And I immediately thought it might be fun for Weston to play one of the Russian gangsters in the movie because he could do that so well. But it was Paco's idea to take it even a step further and to have Weston actually play the younger version of Paul McGuire. So it was actually a pretty inspired idea because I don't think anyone knows me better than Weston, so, or what I'm going to do than Weston. So and vice versa. So I think we were able to work pretty well together and give each other notes about where we were headed with Paul. Well, for me, the filmmaking process and the screenwriting process begins about a month before principal photography. I start taking in the dialogue, and I start looking at the dialogue and seeing what I can interpret in an honest way or not. And then I start fine-tuning it with Paco and with Jim. But you don't really know how it's going to form until you're filming. And I'm glad that they left some of the more intense scenes towards the end of the shoot, because by now, which is right now, I have a better concept of how to play Paul McGuire's state of mind or state of being at this point in the film. But it's always, you got to stay flexible, and Paco, thankfully, is the kind of filmmaker that likes to sculpt while doing it, and we have had a good collaboration that way. You know, I'll say in a scene, well, look, I really don't, I think Paul's beyond words right now. I mean, he's so upset about what he has discovered, the mistakes that he's made, that I don't think he can use dialogue in this scene. It's too much. He's underwater. If he were to say anything, it would be above water. He can't even talk right now. He's so angry. But okay, well, and then Paul will say, well, I really need that monologue about how he got into a fight when he was 16 with a knife. Well, I'll say, well, can we say it over here? Can we move it towards the very end? Just that stuff, and have him say it to his wife. That makes sense to me. And so it's that kind of teamwork that I think when it's happening, you know, when it's flowing, anything is the magic of cinema is possible. Well, first of all, the crew is a hard-working crew, and they really care about the movie, and everyone is going 100%, you know, working long hours and trying to get this movie made. So there's that. The cast, you know, I have Danny Glover, who was a friend of my father, who has an extraordinary charisma on camera, but he's also one of the nicest people you'll ever meet off camera. And so it's a great pleasure to be working with him. Mobile, Alabama is a lovely place to make a movie. First of all, the people are extraordinarily friendly, and that's always nice. I mean, you can tell they're sincere, and there's a genuine enthusiasm about filmmaking coming into town, and they've been very patient with us, and also just, you know, going above and beyond to you know, to be hospitable, which is, you know, a wonderful thing, and it just makes you want to give back. Also on breaks, you know, the area is beautiful. It's great to go out to Fairhope and, you know, spend some time out on Gulf Shores and you know, be at the beach, or just go for a swim. And so it's a great place to regenerate, I think, as well.